A random guy messaged me on Instagram. At first, it seemed harmless. We talked for a while, and honestly, he seemed polite. Then he asked me one question, a question that made my stomach drop instantly. Do you work at my office location? And in that moment, I realized this stranger somehow knew where I worked. Before we jump into this story, hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy real-life Reddit drama and unbelievable situations. And while you're listening, tell me this. If a complete stranger knew your workplace without you ever telling them, would you be concerned? Now let's get into it. The story. A few months ago, I received a random Instagram DM. At first, I almost ignored it. Like most women on social media, I get messages from strangers every now and then. Usually, I don't respond. Sometimes they're creepy, sometimes they're weird, and sometimes they're just boring. But this one seemed different. The guy was respectful. No cheesy pickup lines, no inappropriate comments, no weird behavior, just a normal conversation. So after letting the message sit for almost 2 weeks, I finally replied. To my surprise, the conversation flowed naturally. We talked about work, life, general interests, nothing unusual, nothing alarming, at least not initially. For a little while, I actually thought he seemed like a decent person. Then everything changed. Out of nowhere, he asked, "Do you work at office location?" The moment I read that message, my heart skipped a beat. I stared at my screen, read it again, then again. How did he know that? I had never mentioned my office. I had never posted anything publicly identifying my workplace, at least not that I could remember. My mind immediately started racing. Had someone given him my information? Was he connected to someone I knew? Had he been watching my profile for months? I didn't know. So I asked him directly, "How do you know my office?" His answer didn't help, just a guess. A guess? Out of all the possible workplaces in the city, that explanation felt impossible. The conversation continued, but something had changed. I was still replying, still being polite. But internally, I was becoming increasingly uncomfortable. Every message now carried a different weight, because I wasn't talking to a stranger anymore. I was talking to someone who somehow knew details about my life. As we kept chatting, I started asking him questions. What do you do? Where do you live? What kind of work are you in? To his credit, he answered openly. He told me he ran a startup. He explained his product. He even asked me to check it out and leave a review. At one point, he said, "Sorry for messaging out of the blue. If you're uncomfortable, feel free to block me." But by then, my concern wasn't about the messages. It was about how much information he already seemed to have. The more I thought about it, the more uncomfortable I became. So I decided to do what most people do in situations like that. I started researching. He had already mentioned his startup. Finding his LinkedIn wasn't difficult. Within minutes, I was looking at his profile, his company, his work history, his professional connections. Nothing I found suggested he was dangerous. But at the same time, nothing explained how he knew where I worked. That question kept bothering me. How? The next day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe there was a perfectly reasonable explanation. But uncertainty can be powerful, especially when you're a woman dealing with a stranger online. Most men will never understand how many stories women hear growing up. Stories about stalking, stories about harassment, stories about strangers becoming obsessed, stories that start with something small, a message, a follow request, a casual conversation, and then suddenly become something much worse. So yes, I was worried. Maybe more worried than I should have been, but I couldn't shake the feeling. Eventually, I started asking mutual connections whether anyone knew him, whether anyone had given him my information, whether there was something I wasn't seeing. The answers only created more confusion. Nobody seemed to know exactly how he found me. Nobody seemed to know who had connected us, and that uncertainty kept feeding my anxiety. A few hours later, I received another message from him. This time, he seemed nervous. He apologized. Again, he said he didn't mean to make me uncomfortable. He insisted there was no bad intention. Part of me wanted to believe him, but another part of me kept returning to that same question. How did he know my workplace? I asked him directly, again and again. I wanted a clear answer. Instead, he seemed frustrated. Eventually, he replied, "Your account is public. It's not like I needed someone to give it to me. I just sent a message." Then suddenly, he blocked me. Just like that. Conversation over. No explanation. No closure. Nothing. And honestly, that made the situation feel even stranger. For the next several hours, my mind kept replaying everything. Maybe he was innocent. Maybe I had misunderstood. Maybe I had let my fears get the better of me. Or maybe my instincts were warning me about something important. I genuinely didn't know. That's what made the situation so difficult. There was no clear villain, no obvious answer, just uncertainty. And uncertainty can be terrifying. As the story spread among mutual contacts, more people started discussing it. Some thought I was overreacting. Others believed I had every right to be cautious. People took sides. Rumors started forming. Assumptions were made. And before long, a simple Instagram conversation had turned into something much larger than it ever should have become. That's when I realized something important. Neither of us had really communicated properly. He thought I was attacking him. I thought he knew more about me than he should. And somewhere between those two perspectives, the situation spiraled completely out of control. The resolution. Looking back now, I don't think either side handled things perfectly. Could I have simply blocked him earlier? Probably. Could he have explained how he found me more clearly from the beginning? Probably. Would that have prevented all the drama? Maybe. What I do know is this. Fear changes the way people think. When someone feels threatened, even unintentionally, they start looking for answers. And when someone feels accused of something they didn't do, they become defensive. That's exactly what happened here. A misunderstanding grew larger and larger until neither side trusted the other anymore. One lesson I learned from this experience is that perception matters. Sometimes what feels harmless to one person can feel deeply unsettling to someone else. And when communication breaks down, people often fill the gaps with their own fears and assumptions. What do you think? Was I right to be concerned? Or did I let my imagination run too far? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with someone who loves Reddit drama. And remember, sometimes the scariest situations aren't the ones where something happens. They're the ones where you never find out what really happened at all.